Hi guys, it's Alice coming at you with this week's installment of Retro Gaming Goodness. We're halfway through the month, and while we did slow things down a bit in the past few weeks, we need to kick things up a notch to make up for last time. We never forgot about the fast-paced nature of retro gaming, friends, don't worry. From Atari to MS-DOS to Commodore 64, we're going coast to coast with 3 different titles that'll pique a variety of interests. It's always great to have options when choosing a game to keep you company over a busy week. It's time to make a choice, so watch on to see what you're working with. But before that, make sure to like and subscribe so you'll always be up to date with the latest retro news. Click that bell icon so you'll know exactly when our news goes live. Let's go! The year was 1993, and the Bitmap brothers dropped one of the hottest games of that year, the original Chaos Engine. Initially made for the Amiga, it pits 1 or 2 players against horrible demonic entities in an intense top-down shooter. Fast forward to 2023, we have a very sweet love letter from Shanti77 to the OG Chaos Engine called Trax. This time around, it'll come out on the Atari XL XE. It's still too early to say if it'll be turned into a full game, but we're getting some development notes from the developer. So far, Trax features a variety of enemies, items to pick up, keys to collect, sound effects, 3 new levels, improved AI, and some graphical improvements. So far, so good. It looks like Atari XL and XE owners have a great game to look forward to. It's quite the special occasion as we don't get that many MS-DOS releases, especially on GOG. This retro title comes from Juan J. Martinez, an absolute Chad, who's released other great games like Hyperdrive for the CPC and Night Night for the MSX. This time, we're getting a sweet MS-DOS game called Gold Mine Run, a high-quality platformer inspired by the classics, but with a twist. You have to collect all the gold throughout each of the 30 stages to progress. Now that's intense. So far, we know that Gold Mine Run is a single-screen arcade platformer that totally channels that old-school, nostalgic vibe of 80s arcade classics. The game's design was strongly influenced by Night Night for the MSX, and Juan J. Martinez made sure of that. As for the requirements, of course, you need MS-DOS to run it, plus a 386DX at 33 MHz, VGA graphics, a sound blaster, and at least 4 MB of RAM. So to anyone on GOG who runs with the MS-DOS crowd, it's high time you checked out or took part in the Gold Mine Run. Last but not least, we get a very hip and cool blast from the past on the Commodore 64. If you're a fan of the 90s and at the very least own an old school Game Boy, then you'll be psyched to know that this latest release by Roman Werner is a wonderful port of Bill and Ted's excellent Game Boy adventure for the C64. This title will definitely rekindle some of those very late 80s and early 90s memories because, well, Keanu Reeves, even if it's just tiny pixels of him. Yes, LJN and Beam Software's legendary game has finally made its way to the Commodore 64 more than 30 years later. Currently available on itch.io, this is a very accurate conversion of the legendary Bill and Ted Game Boy game, but for modern C64 sensibilities. It's remade from scratch, optimized for the C64, and features SID music by Nordish Sound. Did we mention that Pixel Keanu Reeves is in it? Yes, of course. What's more is, it's absolutely free on itch.io. So if you want to relive the glory days of the early 90s, best to download Bill and Ted's excellent Game Boy adventure for the C64. And there you have it, another week of sweet retro gaming goodness. A few suggestions for any news to cover, or if we missed anything, you know the drill. Leave it down in the comments. Once again, this is Alex, and I'll catch you all again next time.